Good evening, everyone. Can you people hear me?
Yes, brother, we hear your
Oh,
voice.
okay, that's good. That's good. It's good that you are hearing me, man.
Yes, good.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Chernoba. I am the moderator of this webinar, which is the English part two. And the speaker is going to be Fidel da Costa from Timor Leste. So you are all welcome to this noble platform. It's a platform where we will share our knowledge and experience as far as academia is concerned. So the schedule for this particular event is going to be like as follows. First, opening. Then second, it is going to be a welcoming speech from the chairman of IMPAS, Dito. And third is going to be the presentation of the material by the speaker. And fourth is going to be discussion, that is questions and answer session. So as I said earlier, my name is Chernoba. I am going to be the moderator of this particular event for today. So you are all welcome on the board. So we are about to start. In the name of Allah, I said Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So this event is being opened. So Mr. Dito, the chairperson of IMPAS, the time and floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mr. Sernoba and Mr. Fidel da Costa. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good night, all of the friends where is come from Unitary and also another place and all place of the world. Welcome to this English webinar part 2. We will talking about the macroeconomic analysis in Timor-Leste. Timor-Leste is the youngest country in the Southeast Asia that always develop day by day and time by time. And in the 21st years of the Independence Day of Timor-Leste, I hope that Timor-Leste will going fast and grow up as the development country and can compete with the country all of the world and in the Southeast Asia. And I'm surprised that Timor-Leste can do that because this country is full of potential part and the potential section in the economic and also for welfare. So I'm the chairman of HIMPAS, welcoming and welcome for Fidel da Costa from Timor-Leste, and I hope that Mr. Fidel da Costa can give understanding about the macroeconomic analysis in Timor-Leste. I think that's enough. Thanks for your attention, and uh, I hope you that enjoy this schedule with Fidel da Costa. Okay, thanks, Mr. Serno.
All right, thank you, Honorable Dito, the chairman of IMPAS. That was a wonderful welcoming speech. Okay, so for those of us who do not know Fidel da Costa, as I said earlier, he is from Timor-Leste. He did his undergraduate studies in Unitary, and he is currently a postgraduate studies in Unitary under the area of agricultural economics. That is master's class, the international class for that matter. So Fidel has vast experience and knowledge in terms of agriculture. So today he is going to share with us the microeconomic condition in Timor-Leste. So we all know what microeconomic studies is. It is a branch of economics that deals with farms, individuals in the economic system. So I believe Fidel is going to put us through some of the microeconomic situations in Timor-Leste. They are very key to the aggregate economy of a particular country. Fidel, the floor is yours. You have 30 minutes to do your presentation. All right, thank you. Wish you all the best of luck.
Mr. Fidel, the microphone is off.
Local speaker, Fidel.
Aduh, yeah. Sorry. Again, I apologize. I say sorry because I forget about microphone. Okay. My title research is about macroeconomic development analysis in Timor-Leste. Before I want to present my title research, the first of all, I don't forget to say my greeting especially for the head of IMPAS, Mr. Rito, all invite me. The first time I joined, and I'm very honorable for this seminar, and the first time for me to be a speaker for this seminar, and also welcome for my best friends that this night take their time to join this seminar so that we can discuss and share about our opinion to improve our understanding about macroeconomic, especially in Timor-Leste. So, title research that I want to share for the seminar is macroeconomic development analysis in Timor-Leste. So next. Now, next slide. Okay. Based on the research, the background, the state of Timor-Leste is one of the countries that was once part of the state of Indonesia before Timor-Leste was a part of Indonesia. And on the world map, the state of Timor-Leste is located in Asian continent, namely in Southwest Asia with capital city of Dili. And everyone knows that the Dili is capital city in Timor-Leste. Administratively, the distribution of provincial areas in the government of the state of Timor-Leste is divided into 13 districts or provinces. The government systems of states of Timor-Leste is a semi-presidential democratic republic. The semi-presidential system of government means that the president of the head of a state who is elected by the people every 5 years. The president of the Timor-Leste does not have full power over the government. His function is only ceremonial, will have a veto or laws that is also supreme leader in the military. The state of Timor-Leste is led by a prime minister as a government elected from multi-party elections and opened from majority party of a majority coalition. Next. Timor-Leste officially became independent on May 20 in 2002. In 2021, after approximately 19 years of independence, and now Timor-Leste independence in 21 years. The Timor-Leste government is still face many serious economic problems. The economic condition in Timor-Leste is still relatively under development. This means that economic in Timor-Leste is still very low or very poor for the citizen of Timor-Leste. And as counted from the United Nations Development Program or UNDP report, Timor-Leste is ranked 152 as a poorest country in the world out of the 162 countries. Based on the background of the problems above, choose a research topic on macroeconomic developments in Timor-Leste. a number of aspects of macroeconomic development, such as economic growth, economic stability, employment, capital flows, international trade, to institutional development in Timor-Leste are important discussions in this research. The author hopes to provide a clearer picture of the macroeconomic conditions in Timor-Leste. And next. Based on the research, have 6 purposes. The first is to describe and analyze the development of economic growth in Timor-Leste. 2, to describe and analyze development in economic stability in Timor-Leste. 3, to describe and analyze employment development in Timor-Leste. 4, to describe and analyze the development of international trade in Timor-Leste. 5, to describe and analyze the development of capital flows in the economy in Timor-Leste. And the last, to describe and analyze institutional development in Timor-Leste. So next. Research method. The method that this research used to take the data is the study uses a quantitative method which describes a statistical approach to secondary data. This research method only take the data from the secondary data only, especially from the World Bank map, especially from World Bank publication. The macroeconomic variables that are the focus of analysis are the first, economic growth, economic stability, employment, capital flows, international trade, and institutional development. The next. So, based on the research, analysis, and discussion results, the result of this study indicate that in general, the macroeconomic in Timor-Leste is still struggling to develop stably. It means that macroeconomic in Timor-Leste in general struggle to develop, become stable. Major challenges, because many challenges that Timor-Leste face and very effect about macroeconomic in Timor-Leste. The first, from economic growth rise from inflation and fluctuation phenomena, low employment opportunities, low level of exports. Timor-Leste is very low. The product that they export from Timor-Leste to another country is high levels of corruptions coupled with underdeveloped law enforcement. In Timor-Leste also, many cases about corruption, also very effects about macroeconomic in Timor-Leste based on the research. So the variable that important to discuss Timor-Leste economic growth can be seen from a number of indicators. An important indicator is the value of gross domestic product, or GDP, reported by the World Bank. A graph data 1 below illustrates the Timor-Leste growth tends to increase for year to year throughout the 2005 until 2020 period. And also we can see in graph 1, projected economic growth of Timor-Leste in the next 5 years, during from 2021 until 2025 period, which is also expected to increase. And this year we can see on the graph that GDP Timor-Leste is 1.86, and this graph show that GDP of Timor-Leste from 2005 until 2020 is growing up to be better. And also the observation from 4 years from 2021 until 2025 also increase. And next, brother, next slide.
Yeah.
Okay. The second analysis of economic stability in Timor-Leste. The first indicators that determine the level of economic stability in Timor-Leste is the development of prices and goods and services in general, which is represented by the inflation rate. During the 2002 until 2019 period, the inflation rate in Timor-Leste was below 10% per year. It means that normally because there's only 10% from 2002 until 2019. And the highest inflation rate was recorded in 2013 at very high is 19%. In 2004, 2014, and 2018, Timor-Leste even expressed a general decline in or deflation. An economy with an inflation rate that is still below the 10% range can be said that be relatively stable in terms of the prices and services. And next. The third about labor variable analysis or about employment in Timor-Leste. We can see based on the research, the population of Timor-Leste in 2000 was 84,366 people and increased in 2019. It became 1,293,119 people. The development of employment in Timor-Leste can be seen from the first time from the total size of its workforce. During the 2002 until 2019 period, the total of workforce in Timor-Leste increased from 2002 around 356,000 people to 545,000 people. Of the total labor force, the highest labor force participation rate was around 70% in 2002, while in subsequent years it tended to decline. In 2019, the labor force participation rate was recorded at 67%. The labor force observed in the world of work mostly worked in the industrial sector, around 5 until 16% 2019 period, while the rest work in the non-industrial sector. Furthermore, World Bank data also shows that during the 2002 until 2019 period, the unemployment rate in Timor-Leste was 8 until 12%, and the workers Timor-Leste, some of them are working in another country like in Australia, in UK, and also in some of countries. Some of them, based on this research, some of them work in the industrial sector and some of them work in non-industrial sectors, and their income for the country also can help a part of help economic citizen of economy in Timor-Leste. And next, capital flow variable analysis. About capital flow, based on the research, the development of the capital flow variable in Timor-Leste can be seen from the indicators of the value account balance, the value of foreign direct investment, and the total value of foreign exchange reserves throughout the 2006 until 2019 period. Timor-Leste's net capital account value expresses a surplus or a positive value. Only in 2014, it was negative or a deficit. Then for the current account balance, Timor-Leste is present a surplus throughout the 2006 until 2015 period, while the 2016 until 2018 period experienced a deficit before returning to a surplus in 2019. Another indicator of capital flows is the value of foreign direct investment. The value of direct foreign investment into Timor-Leste during 2005 until 2019 period was in the range of 0.2% until 6.6% of Timor-Leste's GDP. Next. Next slide, brother. Okay. The last is about institutional variable analysis in the economy. The development of Timor-Leste's institutions can be seen from the indicators of voice and accountability, political stability, government effectiveness, regulatory duality, rule of law, and control of corruption. The analysis of these indicators is represented with the supporting data below. The first, development of voice and accountability dimensions. The development of Timor-Leste institutions can be seen from the voice of the accountability indicators. Timor-Leste in the 2002 until 2019 period, the development of the institutions can be seen from the estimate score and rank score. During the period, Timor-Leste had an average estimate score of 0.50, which means that its estimate score was relatively strong. From this estimate score, it can be said that Timor-Leste has relatively moderate or good indicators of voice and accountability. Next. To development of political dimensions and stability and absence of violence. These indicators looks at the development of Timor-Leste institutions from political stability or stability or politicality motivate violence, indicating terrorism. The development of these indicators can be seen from the score estimate and tail rank. The average estimate score is 0.35, which means that the estimate score is relatively moderate. From this estimate score, it can be said that Timor-Leste has relatively moderate or strong indicators of political stability and absence of violence. This means that the political situation in Timor-Leste is relatively unstable. Give the impact for economic in Timor-Leste. And the third development of regulatory dimensions. Timor-Leste in the 2002 until 2019 period, from the aspect of regulatory quality, the development of institutions can be seen from the estimated scores and rank scores. During that period, Timor-Leste had an average estimated score of 1.09, which means that the estimated score was relatively strong. It means that the capacity of the Timor-Leste government to formulate and implement the government policies and or regulations that provide sectors development is good. The average rank score is rank 14 among other countries in the quality aspect of regulatory quality. Next. Next slide. Raden. Okay, the four development of dimensions of the rule of law. The development of its institutions can be seen from the estimate scores and rank scores. During the 2002 until 2019 period, Timor-Leste had an average estimated score of negative 1.03, which means that its estimate score was relatively low. From its estimated score, it can be said that Timor-Leste has an average poor rule of law indicators. This means that the level of trust and adherence to societal rules in Timor-Leste is still poor. And the last development of the control for corruption dimensions. In Timor-Leste has an average estimate score of negative 0.5, which means that the estimate score is relatively low. It means that in Timor-Leste, one can still gain. There are still many cases of corruption. The power of the political elite and private sector's interest in Timor-Leste still supports the use of government power. Next, conclusion. Okay, based on the research results that have been obtained, this study gives the following conclusions. There are 6 conclusions. The first, economic growth in Timor-Leste based on a number of indicators indicates a tendency for domestic economic activity to increase. 2, economic stability in Timor-Leste based on a number of indicators indicates relatively stable prices of goods and below 10%. The third, employment in Timor-Leste based on a number of indicators indicates an improvement in employment opportunities. The fourth, based on a number of indicators, international trade in Timor-Leste indicates that export and import activities are increasing. Five, the flow of capital in the economy in Timor-Leste based on a number of indicators is a flow of capital, both income and outcome capital flows, which indicate the start of the development of the financial system in Timor-Leste. And the last conclusion is based on a number of indicators. Institutional development in Timor-Leste indicates that regulations have not been optimally developed, enforced optimally. And last next slide, Mr. Okay. I think that's all. It's for my presentation, and thank you for your full attention. And I need your opinion and your ideas for me so that I can improve myself about my skill, especially for economic in Timor-Leste, so that one day I can be a part of contribute developments in my own country, Timor-Leste, to be developed, become greater development country. Time and opportunity, I head back to the moderator.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Fidel da Costa, for that wonderful deliberation. It was insightful, interactive, at the same time educative. As he has taken us through the major fragments of macroeconomics in Timor-Leste. So as you can see in the presentation, it was said, an economic growth can be measured by the GDP of a particular country. So if you talk about GDP, we all know it means the monetary value of goods and services that are produced within the boundaries of a particular country. So from the presentation, we have seen that the GDP of Timor-Leste in the previous years was low, but because of some adjustments in the labor, in the laws, and some adjustment in the output scaling and the manufacturing industries, the GDP has been improving and it is growing. So we expect in the future it will grow to a better height. So GDP is also used to measure the standard of living of a particular country. That is what we call GDP per capita. That is taking the number of the GDP, then you divide it by the population of a particular country. That is going to give you on average the level of income of each individual in that country. And the level of income of the individual determine the standard of living of that particular individual. That's why we see, let's say, for example, China, it is having a very high GDP next to the United States of America. But if you compare the standard of living in China and that of other countries that are sub below China, their standard of living is higher than China, while simply because of the population of China is huge. So if you take the GDP of China, you divide it by the population, then the GDP per capita is going to be very low. So those are some of the parameters that we use to measure GDP. We have what we call the investment, we have what we call government spending, we have what we call expenditure, and we have what we call the net import and net export. If you are measuring GDP in an open economy, every country has an open economy because there is no country that's an island. So that was just a brief summary of some of the key points that I was able to gather from Fidel presentation, which I believe were very helpful and were very insightful. So Fidel, once again, thank you very much for your presentation, and the participant, thank you very much for your kind attention. So now we'll go to the questions and answer sessions. Please, if you have a question, you can either type your question in the chat box or you raise up your hand to say out your question so that we can interact. Thank you, guys.
Maybe dengan bahasa Indonesia juga.
Costa, there's a question in the chat group. Can you please help us to answer that question? It reads, hello, my name is Daniel Simo. I would like to ask, what are the most prominent differences regarding the macroeconomics in your country and in Indonesia? That is in Timor-Leste and Indonesia. And then what about the macroeconomics there during the COVID-19? It is still stable? Has it worsening? Okay, and how is the economic condition there after the recovery period from the COVID-19 pandemic? Maybe you explain. Thank you. All right, Fidel.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Daniel. Your question is really good question for me, and now I'm trying to three questions, right? Three questions. Yes, right, Mr. Chano, where is the chat? Okay. Based on the research, macroeconomic in Timor-Leste during pandemic, they estimate that macroeconomic in Timor-Leste will become problem or become low because of the coronavirus. In many sectors are cannot be going well, and also we know that in most of countries in the world, because the coronavirus is not only in Timor-Leste or in Indonesia, but it was in all the world. That's why in Timor-Leste also get impacts for corona, but the government of Timor-Leste, the system that they use to recuperate the economic, especially for macroeconomic in Timor-Leste, they use recuperation economy. One of the recuperation economy is they give the citizen of Timor-Leste, the government give subsidy for their people in Timor-Leste, like help them to control their self so that they can be healthy, and also help them for the share them some food and also some money for the people so that they can survive their life during pandemic. We are happy that in Timor-Leste, even condition in the world very extreme, but in Timor-Leste we can see that still stable about their economy, because the data from the pandemic in Timor-Leste is not behind, but just very low. That's why the government of Timor-Leste can control and really. And also the second, Mr. Sena, I forgot the second question.
The other question is
question
the difference between Indonesian macroeconomics and Timor-Leste macroeconomics.
Okay, very good. So sorry, I forgot about the question. Indonesia and Timor-Leste about economy. Timor-Leste, government of Timor-Leste treated Indonesia like their parents. Even big things or small things, they always need Indonesian contributions in Indonesian helping, like many products export from Indonesia to Timor-Leste, and also many sectors like the infrastructure in Timor-Leste. Most of people from Indonesia, they are going there to help, and they building about basic infrastructures. And also until now, we can say that Timor-Leste cannot be, even Timor-Leste already independence, but cannot be independent without Indonesia and also without another countries that around. The Timor-Leste always need their cooperation so that Timor-Leste can become a development country as like another countries that already develop, already independence from many years. Because we know that Timor-Leste is just now, Mr. Rito said that Timor-Leste is a young country that now only during only 21 years. It means as well like human maybe still prepare to build their family. That's why Timor-Leste needs many helping from many countries, especially from Indonesia. And maybe it can I explain and to moderator, maybe you can give opportunity to another audience, most of our friends, maybe I see some of them also from Timor-Leste, like Fidelino, can end to explain very clearly about our friends Daniel questions, because the question is really interesting. And thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Fidel, for that. Somebody want to ask a question? Who is that, Fidelino?
Hello.
Yeah, Fidelino, you are welcome on board.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, thank you. Oh, I want to reinforce that answer, which is Mr. Fidel already answered for our friend Daniel Simo about the situation for our macroeconomy East Timor during the COVID last year, 2 years ago, in the COVID situation. Of course, it is affecting every country. East Timor also affecting, but as my perspective and my observation, Darin, I'm back to my country. in East Timor, and as we see in the East Timor situation of the macroeconomic and economic generally in East Timor, it is not really affecting. Because why? Because East Timor is the economic is still driving by the government financial. So it is mean every sector like SMA, small medium entrepreneurs, or like UMKM from East Timor sector, and then like agriculture sector, it is not still not very, it is not very supporting, or not very big, large to like independent sector or private sector. So is all the sector is still depending from national or government expenditure and a government payment, so that it is not really affecting. So yeah, as we see in the data that Fidel already saw, that in 2020, the economic, can you show that in 2020, the economic of East Timor is not really affected by COVID-19. So as we compare from another country, which is the government, the economy of the government or economy of the country is driven by a private sector, is I hope it is will affecting even all the moving, or like all the situation of the private sector is stopping by the many barriers and the many, you know, many how can I say in Indonesia, peraturan for COVID-19. So they cannot produce it, and they cannot export. But in East Timor, in the case of East Timor, is different, because East Timor is not the big national income is not come from private sector, but it is from government sector. So as we producing oil, and then as I know in this moment, so our national income, it is very support highly is from oil, and then secondly is from immigrant worker. As Fidel already said, that our young country, many of our young country, we export the immigrant worker to working to Australia, Europe, like United Kingdom, and then Ireland, and then the third is Korea. But our government just still find another country to join. They already make approachment, and then they already signing for a MEU for with the German, and then maybe this will be realized in the next year. German, Japan. So that it is the immigrant worker take support in national income, pendapatan negara pada urutan kedua. In the second position, so that supporting our national income. And the third is from exporting from sector agriculture sector. As we know that this is from coffee and then vanilla. So that's my answer. Sorry, Mr. Daniel, if I cannot answer clearly, but as my perspective and as I know, and as I exploring sometime. So thank you, Mr. Cherno.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fidelino, for that wonderful deliberation. Yeah, I think I agree with you on that, because different countries have different economic gains. Like you said, in economics we call that remittance. Yeah, most of the labor will go out, work for greener pasture. At the end of the day, they will be sending income back home. So that income that they send back home in economics, we call it remittance. So that remittance is also a key component on the GDP. In some countries, it's in fact the highest contributor to the GDP, while in other countries that have high manufacturing industries, like Indonesia, for example, that would be highest contributor to the GDP. And I agree with you. Thank you. You still have another question on the chat? Oh, okay, that was thank you from the one who asked the question. So if there are any other question, please, you can write your name or you indicate that you want to Yes, any other question? Who want to ask a question? A comment or a clarification? The floor is still
Mr.
open.
Dito.
Okay, Mr.
Mr. Dito
Dito.
have a question.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mr.
yes,
Dito, the
yes.
floor is yours.
Okay, thanks for the nice occasion and a well presentation from Mr. Fidel da Costa and also the explanation for not giving the queries or the questions much, but only about my perspective about the Timor Leste. As the youngest country in the southeast of Asia, I assure that this country can be developed and always grow up as a development country, as a big country in the future of Asia. But the problem is, I think that coming from in the presentation that the source of gas, I think that minyak bumi ya, uh, the Timor Leste using gas and explore the gas and sell it to another country. So my question is, when the gas is sold out, what is the source of economics from your country? This is the first question. And the second question is, uh, what is your perspective about Indonesia and the friendship between your country and between Indonesia in the future? Okay, thanks. Thanks a lot, Mr. Fidel.
Mr. Chano, I directly try to answer Mr. Dito's question, and after that, I need Mr. Fidelino to end more so that can very clear, because we talk about economic Timor Leste, it's not only Fidel but also Fidelino are here.
Yeah, man. Okay. All right, no problem. All right, no problem.
Okay. The first question just now about gas or oil Timor Leste. And the second question just now about, sorry, I forget.
Question is about the future relationship between Indonesia and the molested.
Okay, relationship feature. Okay, the oil that Timor Leste's income, we can say that half of income from Timor Leste is from oil. But we know that before Timor Leste became a country, Timor Leste was a part of province Indonesia. Indonesia already have agreement with Australia. Agreement with Australia, it means that the result from oil or gas from sea is the result is divided in two parts. From for Indonesia only, it's based on some information that I hear the story before, only 10%, but for Australia 19%. It was Timor-Leste still was a part of Indonesia. That is why, because of the oil, Timor-Leste want to become a country because Timor-Leste have a how to say, have a power of income that they, for about their estimate, they can develop alone with their own country. And from now, because Indonesia and Timor-Leste and Australia already have an agreement, that's why Timor-Leste government still fights with Australia, not about fight with physics or with power aware, but with, because we can say that it's a right of Indonesia, if of Timor-Leste, that Timor-Leste want to get all from the results gas that from Australia, and now Timor-Leste with Australia, they divide the gas. The result gas is for Timor-Leste 30%, and for Australia 70% is based on information that I got. And but only 30%, but Timor-Leste can use the income from the Timor-Leste country. And just now we also mentioned that some of income from the labor, the immigration labor. And the second, maybe after that, Fidelino can explain very clearly about that, because yes, you already recognize me that I'm not economic man. I'm not economic man, but I'm an animal husband. and about relationship Indonesia with Timor-Leste in the future. Relationship Timor-Leste with Indonesia in the future, we hope that will be very strong relationship, will be good relationship, because even Timor-Leste already independence, but still we cannot avoid from Indonesia, because just now, as I said, that Indonesia is our parents, that whatever that we want, whatever that we need, we depend on our parents, our father, our mother, because we are maybe my philosophy for how to mention as Indonesia with Timor-Leste, that. That's why we also coming here to study with brothers in Indonesia, because we want to build our relationship until in the future become so that we can fight with economy, because we know that now in the world economic is very dangerous. When some country cannot anticipate it, their situation economy in their country will be very impact. Leste will become very good and very strong relationship, like son and father. Thank you.
All right, thank you
Maybe
very much,
Mr.
Fidel da Costa. So, Fidelino, do you have anything to say before we move to the next question? And I believe that will be the last question for this session.
Oh yeah, I want to reinforce the answer that Fidel already answered for Mr. Dito, is about East Timor research. As we know, and the Fidel already presented that East Timor East Timor is still depending from one sector. That's one sector. Is it as we know, it is from the sector of oil, and we know that oil sector is not renewable resource. It is not renewable. So even oil is finished, the country might finish. There's a narration that we sometimes we discussion with academic area. Of course, in other country that only dependent from one sector economy, it is danger for one country, from which country that depending from just only one sector. But as we know, East Timor is they exploring our country is exploring our oil from 2005 until 2006 is on the process, and then in 2007 on the January, the East Timor oil is already sell it in the market. So our 7, and then we use that money because our country is independent in 2002. So we use that money to develop in our country, to do infrastructure, to open in scholarship, and then build office, everything we do it. But not only that. Our president Rambo Zorta said that we also investing with our money that we already getting from East Timor oil. So we also invest in our money to another bank in the world. So we have many investment in other bank. So it is to save our a result of our research. And then as we know, our research from oil, 2 gap is already finished. But that finished already, but in the camp, we still use the camp and the material to modificating to get the carbon to. So it's finished, but is modification to the other industry. So that's a good idea from this government. So I hope that's good. And then as we know, our country also not depending from oil research, but the government see that the population, it is an asset. So our country is small, so unemployment or pengangguran is every year is going, going more and more and more, semakin bertambah. So government make an idea, make a approachment with other country, with industrial country, which is demand yang ada permintaan tenaga kerja, so that our country can, mengekspor tenaga kerja. So we can export immigrant workers to, industrial country, which is need employment. So our people, like young people, like who is finished from a secondary high school, or who is in the village but have initiative to go find a job in other country like Europe, Australia, anywhere, they can go it, and government facilitated to open a course for English, Korean language to go there, and government facilitating gives subsidies for paying their flight to go work in there, and then after that they can they can refund. and then the others, they can save it, they can recuperate their economy. So, but after that, we use the oil's money to investment in our country. For example, like we already buy the, airplane, airport, and then Pelabuhan port, our new port, and then we already defined that a special zone of economy, which is, as we know, that it's ECOC, is already done, but is just waiting for a function. So all of that, it's our government is preparing for the future. To our country is preparing for the like industrial country or somewhere else, or like a tourism country, because the one reason is why we already on the process to go in Asia member. So it is now just only maybe one step to we are going to be legally to be Asian member. So the point is an Asian member is we use a dollar. So it is very interesting because why? So only East Timor is using dollar of America. So in the future, even East Timor is tourism, East Timor is industrial, going work. So many of the other country which is not using dollar will go there and work in there. Because the cost of the dollar, if you change to other countries, there is very significant. We didn't use the dollar, but like a Filipinese worker and other maybe sometime Indonesia as well, sometime they go work and then do some business and maybe some investment, small investment, because the dollar course of the dollar we change to other countries' money. So the challenge for our country is make immigrant law is very barrier, so that people can come to work in our country, and then we can save the money that they already work and get it. So we can manage it better. So I hope we are very hopefully in the future, East Timor will be good. Even oil resort is finished. Our country already get income from another sector. So it is, I'm very hopefully. So that's my, and then another one is, how about the Indonesian and the East Timor relationship? I think the relationship between Indonesia and Australia is very, very good. We compare going separate. East Timor is, when we are independent in 2002, our president, Sanana Gusmão, and then in that time is Susilo Bambang, and then Megawati, was the time is Megawati. They are cooperating very well, so that borderline in the Atambua working very well, and then there is no conflict in there. And then the Indonesian also export their product. We need their product to in there, and then sometimes we also in another side, the Indonesia also allow the student who is want to come to study in Indonesia. So it's the and then because we cannot reject it Indonesia. Why? Because as we know, the Indonesia is the one largest country in the Asia. So Indonesia, like Indonesia, India, China. So we cannot reject it, as our country is a small country, so we cannot reject it, because the market of Indonesia and Indonesian economy is already good. So as we can so it is, our country can join with Indonesia to, to get our dream to be, our country is also be going good. Indonesia, in other side, Indonesia will going to be country, which is, as Jokowi is, cita-cita, Indonesia is going to be Indonesian goal in 2045. So we are always working together, and then we are always need each other, So that's my perspective, Mr. Dito. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Fidelino, for that wonderful insight. So that brought us to the last question. Fidel, are you there? So the last question is talking about, the issue of agriculture in Timor-Leste, because he believed that agriculture is the main sector that earns foreign exchange. So what is the issue of agriculture in Timor-Leste? How are the conditions of the farms? Are they doing good? Fidel, the floor is yours.
Okay, about agriculture in Timor-Leste, I think is the priority sector that government of Timor-Leste focus about it. Because we know that in any country to develop, the basic is agriculture. So especially in Timor-Leste about agriculture, in Timor-Leste, based on my in Timor-Leste,
Right. No, economy.
become a farmer in the because about product imports that very cheap than product local in Timor-Leste. Also very affect with farmers that the background are agriculture. That's why the government of Timor-Leste find strategic to invest more in agriculture so that agriculture in Timor-Leste can rebuild again so that can cooperate also economic, especially for individual economy for their necessity. Because we see agriculture in Timor-Leste about like farmers, like husbandry. It's very natural, very not still natural, or still we can say that it's still primitive. And about the animal husbandry in Timor-Leste, many farmers in Timor-Leste they have many kinds of animals like cow, buffalo, and horses, but and also pig. But they just focus on culture, focus on culture, because you know that Timor-Leste with NTT, their culture are almost the same, and I think Mr. agriculture in Timor-Leste also to take the benefit from the agriculture to recuperate their economy in Timor-Leste is still, I can say that is still very low. It's my perspective from the question, give the opportunity to Mr. Fidelino or others our friends that still participate. Maybe some of them also from Timor-Leste can reinforce.
Okay, Fidel, thank you very much for that wonderful answer. So yes, as you said, if you have any from the moleste that you believe can also share his or her opinion before we finally conclude, you are highly welcome.
Is there still any questions, Mr. Sir?
I think we are done with the questions now, so we'll be closing the session. So before then, I believe we have to take a group picture. So we are all ought to put on our cameras so that we can take a group picture together. So
Okay.
thank you very much, guys, for joining this wonderful webinar. And we hope the knowledge that have been